Almost every business owner has a picture in their head of what business grants are, and a surprising amount of that picture is wrong. It is not anyone's fault. Grants are a subject people mostly learn about secondhand, from a friend who applied once, from a half-remembered article, from a vendor with something to sell, and from the general noise of the internet, and every one of those sources adds a little distortions. The trouble is that these beliefs do real damage. They talk capable businesses out of applying, they push unsuitable businesses into applying, and they set expectations that make the whole experience more frustrating than it needs to be. So in the next few minutes, we are going to take 7 of the most common myths about Singapore business grants and take them apart one by one so that whatever you decide to do next, you are deciding it based on how things actually work. One important note before we begin: this channel is educational only. We are not a government agency. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by Go Business Enterprise Singapore or any government body, and nothing here is official advice. We are correcting general misunderstandings here, not giving you scheme details, because those differ by scheme and change over time. So we will always point you back to the official source, gobusiness.gov.sg, to confirm what is current for your situation before you rely on any of it. Why myths cost you real money? Before the myths themselves, it is worth understanding why they are worth an entire video. A wrong belief about grants does not sit harmlessly in your head. It changes what you do. If you believe you are not the sort of business that qualifies, you never look and you never find out that you were wrong, and there is no notification for the support you did not claim. If you believe the money is easy and unconditional, you commit to a project on assumptions that do not hold, and you discover the truth at the worst possible moment. Both of those are expensive, one quietly and one loudly. And because these beliefs feel like common knowledge, nobody ever checks them, which is exactly what lets them survive. So the useful move is not to learn more facts, it is to clear out the wrong ones, because a clean starting point is what makes everything after it easier. Myth 1: grants are free money. This is the big one, and it is the root of several others. A grant is not free money, it is support for a specific purpose given on conditions in exchange for you doing something you said you would do. That means there is a project you have to actually carry out, costs you have to genuinely incur, terms you have to comply with, and evidence you have to produce. It also means there is real work involved in preparing, in delivering, and in accounting for it afterwards. The healthier way to think about a grant is as a partner contributing towards something you had good reason to do anyway, not as a windfall arriving for nothing. Owners who hold the free money picture are the ones who get blindsided because they were not expecting any of the obligations that come attached. Drop this myth and most of the others lose their power because nearly all of them are versions of it. Myth 2: grants are only for big established companies. A great many owners rule themselves out before they have looked at anything, on the assumption that support is really meant for larger, older, more impressive businesses than theirs. This is one of the most costly beliefs on the list because it does its damage silently. It stops you at the first step and you never learn what you missed. The reality is that business support in Singapore is not a single door with one kind of business behind it. It covers a range of purposes and a range of businesses, and who fits what varies enormously. Notice what we are not doing here. We are not telling you that you qualify because we cannot possibly know, and eligibility differs by scheme and changes over time. What we are saying is that the assumption is not a substitute for checking. The only honest answer to whether you are eligible lives on the official source, so go and read it rather than deciding in advance that the answer is no. Myth 3: there is one big grant everyone gets. People often talk about the grant as though there were a single program that businesses apply to and either get or do not get. That mental model quietly misleads you because it suggests a queue you join and a prize you win. Support is better pictured as a landscape than a lottery. Different programs exist for different purposes, run by different agencies, aimed at different kinds of activity. And the question is never really whether you can get the grant. It is which support, if any, matches what you are actually trying to do. That reframe changes how you search. Instead of asking, how do I get the grant, you ask, what am I trying to achieve? And then go and see whether anything supports that. It also explains why advice from a friend can be so misleading. They were looking at a different part of the landscape than you are. Myth 4. Applying is so complicated it is not worth trying. The reputation of grant applications is worse than the reality, and that reputation is doing real harm. Yes, there is a form, there are documents, and there is a process, and yes, it takes some genuine effort. But complicated and impossible are not the same thing, and a great many ordinary businesses, without specialist help, get through it perfectly well. What actually makes an application hard is usually not the paperwork itself. It is starting late, being disorganized, or not having thought the project through before you begin writing, and all three of those are within your control. If you know what you want to do and why, and you have your business records in reasonable order, the process is administrative rather than mysterious. Being unsuitable for a scheme is a good reason not to apply. Being intimidated by a form is not, and it would be a shame to let the second masquerade as the first. Myth 5. Someone else can do it all for you. There is a comforting belief that you can hand the whole thing to a consultant or a vendor and simply receive an outcome. And it is not true in the way people mean it. Help is legitimate and often valuable. Someone experienced can save you time and steer you away from mistakes, and there is nothing wrong with using them. But the responsibility never transfers. Your business signs the application, your business is accountable for what it says, and your business lives with the terms afterwards, no matter who typed it. Nobody else can tell you whether the project is right for your business either, because that judgment requires knowing your business. So use help, not as a way to stop paying attention, and be actively suspicious of anyone who prefers you uninvolved, because that preference serves them and not you. Delegating the work is fine, delegating the understanding is where owners get hurt. Myth 6. Approval means the money arrives. Approval feels like the finish line, and this is where that feeling misleads people badly. An approval is generally a decision to support a project on certain terms, not a payment landing in your account, and treating it as the end of the story sets you up for an unpleasant surprise. There is still a project to deliver, conditions to meet, records to keep, and a process to go through before anything is settled. We are keeping this brief because how any particular scheme handles that is its own topic, and the details differ and change, but the mental correction matters here. Approval is a starting gun, not a check. Owners who understand this plan for the whole journey rather than celebrating at the halfway point, which makes everything downstream calmer. Read the terms of anything you are approved for on the official source and know what is still ahead of you. Myth 7. What worked for someone else will work for you. The most persuasive bad advice you will ever receive comes from another business owner who succeeded. They are credible, they are generous, they were genuinely there, and their story is almost always the wrong map for your journey. Their business is different from yours. Their project was different, the scheme they used may have changed since, and the parts of the experience they remember are not the parts that decided it. This is not a reason to ignore people. Peer conversations are a wonderful source of leads. It is a reason to treat what you hear as a starting point rather than a conclusion. The habit that protects you is simple. Take the tip, then go and check the official source for yourself. Because the landscape moves and other people's memories do not update when it does. Someone else's success tells you that something existed, it does not tell you what exists now for you. A closing thought. So here is the clearing out to carry away. Grants are not free money, they are support with conditions attached. They are not only for big established companies, and assuming you do not qualify is not the same as checking. There is no single grant everyone gets. There is a landscape you match to your purpose. Applying is work, not wizardry. Help is useful, but the responsibility stays yours. Approval is a start, not a payment. And someone else's story is a lead, not a map. Remember that everything here is general and educational. We are not a government agency, and we are not affiliated with or endorsed by anyone. And scheme details differ and change over time, which is exactly why we have given you corrections in thinking rather than facts to memorize. Take any of this that surprised you and go and check it properly on gobusiness.gov.sg. If this cleared something up, subscribe for more plain English Singapore Grant Explainers, and we will keep replacing the noise with something you can actually use, one myth at a time.